Today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to make a simple copper coil for your locks, braids, twists, or pretty much any hairstyle that you have where you can take a section of hair and place the coil onto it. So these are the items that you would need to make the coil. You have the wire, and then I like to use these tools here. You have the flat bent plier, the needle nose plier, and then the wire cutter, and then also a file, and then we have the dowel that we're going to use to get our round shape. Now, the dowel that you use or whatever item that you use to wrap your coil around is going to depend on what size you want. So you're going to want to either measure your lock, braid, or think about what size you're going to have before you choose the item that you're going to wrap it around. But the important thing is to have this nice cylindrical shape. So the first thing we're going to do is to choose a wire. I'm going to go with the pink one. Let's move those over. And this wire just so happens to be 18 gauge, and that's because I'm going to be doing it in a smaller size. This would be for locks, more of a small to micro size locks, so you don't want the wire to be super heavy. Now, if you're going for a larger coil, of course, you can use a sturdier, heavier wire because the hair can hold the weight of it. But for this one, this is what we're going to use. So right now what you're going to do is just pull off a stretch of wire. No exact length for this one. Just keep in mind how long you actually want it to be, and then let's put that over there. Keep in mind how long you want it to be, and then just go by that. So I'm gonna do about this long. Looks about like a foot or so. And then we're gonna take the cutters, the wire cutters, and cut off our piece here. Put that to the side. And so now you have your piece of wire. So what I like to do is to take my hands and just smooth it across like this. And what this does is stiffens up the wire and makes it more sturdy. So I just do it a couple times. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is move these over here. The next thing you're going to want to do is take that file, and on the end where you cut the wire, you're going to have a bit of a point, so you want to file that down. And this portion is important because this is going to be going into your hair, and you don't want it to snag or pull. So it's important to get this smooth down. So I just go around the sides and across the top, and I rub it across my finger until it feels smooth. Now, if you don't have one of these files, you can use sandpaper, a nail file, anything of that sort, just to take down that point. A little bit more. And I like to do this in the beginning before I start because I find it much easier than trying to go back afterwards and file down any sharp points. Okay, that one is good. Now, I'm gonna flip it over, do the same thing to the other side. One thing to note about the colorful copper wire is that it is coated on top, obviously, to get the different colors. So when you're working with it with the tools, the pliers, or the file, you want to be careful to not scratch off the color. I mean, over time, the color can wear off, and it would just show the raw copper color underneath, which is fine by me because I think it adds a nice look to it over time. But you don't want to start off with it that way, so you just want to be Pay attention to that. Let's file this down a little bit more here. Just like I said, I want to make sure it's nice and smooth. Okay, that feels good. Put that over there. Actually, put it over there because we don't need it anymore. So now you have your stretch of wire here, and you have it filed on both sides so it's smooth. Now, for this coil, I like to start it off with like a nice swirl shape at the top. So to do that, we're gonna take the needle nose plier and you're gonna grip it right at the end. And then you're just gonna turn it over like this and make a loop. And so you want that, you want it to look like that. So you wanna have a nice little loop there at the end. So you wanna grab it again, do another wrap, and then another wrap. So now at this point, I like to take the flat pliers and clamp that down on top to make sure it's nice and flat. And then I do a couple more turns to get it going. So at this point, it should look like that. You see that? So you have your little swirl work in there. And because this is a lighter gauge wire, you can easily manipulate it by hand. So just use my fingers to keep the swirl going here. And this, how many times you do this is just going to depend on how large you want the swirl to be. So I like to have it a pretty decent size, so I wrap it a few times. Okay, and there we have the coil. Ooh. Sorry, let me put that in there so you can see that. So there you have the coil shape right there. And if you look close, let me bring it up for you, where I was saying about, sorry, I don't know if you can see that, but where I was saying about the color rubbing off of it, you can kind of see there. I mean, it's tool markings, to be honest. It doesn't make a big difference because it's just the mark of a handmade item. Like, you know, it was manipulated by hand, and that's a positive thing to me. So now that you have that coil, what you're going to need, move these over because we're done with those. What you're going to need then is your dowel. I'm using a dowel. Again, anything with a cylindrical shape that's the size that you want it, you can use for this portion. So I'm going to take the coil that we just created and place it flat against the dowel like this. And while you're holding that, you just want to take the wire and wrap it around. Hold it tight, nice and tight while you're wrapping. And then you're just going to keep wrapping and keep wrapping. Now, as you can see here, I've left some space in here because I want this one to be more of a stretched out style. However, if you want it to be a tighter look, let me show you what I mean. When you're wrapping it, you want to wrap it close together like this. But since I want this one to be a little more spread out, I'm actually wrapping it looser. Now, because this is a smaller gauge of a wire, it's easy to move it back and forth like I just did. But when you're working with sturdier wire, that's not as easy to do. So you want to decide before you start if you want it to be spread out, if you want it to be closer together. So I'm just going to keep wrapping. And then what I like to do is when I get to the end, leave a little piece like this sticking out because I like to match my top swirl here. So at this point, you should have something that looks like this. And I like to take it and give it a little twist. Let's just slide this off like that. Then you want to go back for your needle nose plier. Place that on the end, and you're going to do the same thing you did on the other side. So you're just going to take it, loop it around, loop it around. And I think I'm going to do one more swirl. Like that. Take your flat plier, make it neat. Now at this point, as you can see, you have this laying flat here, but this is turned under. So you want to take this flat plier here, you want to grasp that, and then you just want to turn it upwards like this. Give it a little straighten. Do any adjusting that you need to do. And I like to take the cylinder back, push it through, and this is just to make sure that everything is lined up and smooth the way you want it. Because again, you're going to be sticking your hair through here, so you want it to be perfect. So now what you're left with is a coil that looks like this, and you have the top and bottom matching swirl. You have some spacing in there, so it's going to stretch out, give you that stretched look on your lock, braid, or twist. So I hope you found this helpful. I have another one that I've done as well. You can see the difference in the loops or the swirl pattern. So I hope you found this helpful. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're not much of a DIYer, you like this style but you just don't have the time to do it, you can look in the description box below and visit my Etsy shop. I have these similar styles for sale, as well as my more detailed, intricate designed ones as well.
This is Connor. Please subscribe and watch my videos.